Motorcycle racing. This place is on every fan's bucket list and on every rider's win it list. As MotoE begins their dive into the second half of the season, who will set themselves up for the perfect launch tomorrow? Qualifying at the Cathedral of Speed awaits. It's go time for MotoE. So hello and welcome to the Netherlands, where we are at the TT Circuit Assen for the Dutch TT. Round 8 of the MotoGP World Championship and round 5 for the MotoE World Championship. And it is going to be an absolute cracker here for qualifying. As you can see, the conditions are probably just as good as they've been all day. 21 degrees C, lovely, not too hot, not too cold, but there is some wind to be dealt with here as we return to action for the first time in 3 weeks. 3 long weeks, it has to be said. We're certainly plenty refreshed after that long spring break that we have had. But it's Jack Gorst here with Neil Morrison alongside, and down in pit lane we do have Elliot York, this time replacing Fran Wild. Don't worry, Fran is still around doing excellent work elsewhere in the paddock, but Elliot York will be taking over from here on out for the rest of the season. But MotoE qualifying, as we do say, is coming up to our attentions right now, and as you can see, just there in Q1 there is a few big names certainly to look at, particularly Oscar Gutierrez there, who's third in the World Championship as it stands at the moment. Also Matteo Ferrari there, a former World Cup winner. And then also Lucas Tulovic, who thankfully returns to action here after that huge crash last time out in Mugello. Thankfully, Lucas is all okay. Still suffering a little bit of pain in a wrist. It's a broken scaphoid that was operated on. But thankfully not doing too bad at all and dealing with the pain very well, and actually was extremely close to making it into a Q2 spot earlier today in MotoE practice. But a great pleasure then to welcome Neil Morrison to the commentary box for another time today, if you've already caught him in Moto3 and Moto2 action today. And this one, Neil, good to be back, and it should be a lovely little qualifying session for us here in Assen.
It should indeed, Jack. Yeah, very excited to see this one after we've had a couple of thrilling MotoE encounters in the last couple of weeks. The double header that we had in Barcelona and Mugello really did deliver, and well, the momentum in the championship really has swung back and forth a couple of occasions, and yeah, some pretty big implications for the championship potentially here in this session as well, because the rider that currently sits second, Kevin Zaccone, you'll have noticed, will be taking part in this Q1 session. And we did see a couple of the big championship hitters fall foul of Q1 back at Mugello. Obviously there was a bit of a localised shower which impacted the session on that particular day. Hopefully, I think conditions should be a-okay for Q1 and Q2 here for MotoE this afternoon. But Zaccone has a big 10 minutes coming up.
Yeah, so second and third in the World Championship then in this Q1 session, particularly for Oscar Gutierrez, third in the World Championship, who was 9th in practice earlier. He only missed out on a Q2 spot by about 0.02 of a second. And well, it's a good time to introduce ourselves to our brand new pit lane reporter, Elliot York. I think he's got an update on just what the conditions are like down there for us. Take it away, Elliot.
Yeah, good afternoon, gents. Happy to be here in MotoE pit lane. Excited for the rest of the season. Yeah, just compared to practice earlier on, me and you were down here, weren't we, Jack? Sort of assessing what was going on, but as you can probably see from your screens, blue skies, much warmer conditions. The breeze is still pretty much as it was earlier on, but I think the riders, especially in Q1 and in Q2, are going to enjoy these conditions a little bit more. Track temperatures seem to be up as well. So, yeah, better conditions than we had both in the morning and in the afternoon in practice.
Nice one. Thanks very much for that, Elliot. Interesting observations. And I mean, up here in the box, it looks absolutely perfect. The sun is shining. It is not too cold. And it looks as though we're going to have some pretty thrilling action as the session gets underway. That's Maria Herrera. She's obviously been very busy in the last couple of weeks. She's had some other commitments in another championship, which has got quite a lot of attention, hasn't she, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. If you were living under a rock in the last handful of weeks, you would have seen about the new Women's Circuit Racing World Championship that kicked off at the latest World Superbike round there in Misano. Maria Herrera on the Clint Ford factory entry with that on the Yamaha R7 did an absolutely fantastic job and won the first 2 races in the Women's World Championship. So really wonderful stuff from Maria, showing just how good of a rider she is, and also just how good of a racer she is, because the moves that she put in both of those races on the last lap to win it, one against Anna, I've completely forgotten the name now. How on earth have I had a brain blank there? Anna Carrasco, of course. I do apologise, I have a complete brain blank there. Anna Carrasco, and then also battling away with Sarah Sanchez and Beatrice Naylor in the second race. Those two doing a fantastic job to get up there with the established superstars in women's world racing, with Maria and Anna there.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's back on duty here in the MotoE World Championship. Maria's had a tricky enough start to the season. She had a best result of 11th. That came in the first race of the season, and she'll be looking to get through to Q2 for the first time this year as well. As we see her on track just behind, I think that is Finello, one of the Gresini bikes for sure. As you see Oscar Gutierrez winding his way through this wonderful, fast flowing final part of the track. Gutierrez had by far and away his worst weekend of the season in Mugello, and pretty much you could say all of that stemmed from his lousy qualifying session, which really wasn't his fault. He didn't manage to get a lap time in early enough in the Q1 session before a localised Char arrived. Started 15th and could only manage 11th and 10th from there, Jack, which was the first round of the year he's actually been off the podium, which is a remarkable thing to say for a rookie.
Yeah, and a real shame as well, because coming into the round he was extremely close in the championship hunt and now finds himself some 35 points adrift. So lots of work that Oscar has given himself after that Mugello weekend to do in terms of the championship. And actually after that Mugello weekend, seeing as we also spoke about Maria Herrera just before this, both Maria and Oscar got to try their respective teams' MotoE bikes at a little private test. I believe that Maria tested it at Cremona and Oscar was at Misano, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, really cool to see them trying some Moto2 bikes. And you wonder if maybe the test for Oscar was a bit of a reward, but also maybe a semi-serious assessment just to see how good he is maybe in the future, if there is a possible Moto2 spot for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He certainly earned that test ride. Has the number 99, who's been the revelation of the MotoE World Championship this year, come in and taken everyone by surprise just at how fast he has been. But as Jack said, after a tricky weekend at Mugello, he really does need to get his act together here, just so he does not fall too far off in the championship fight. 35 points he now finds himself back off Mattia Casadei in that championship fight. Casadei and Kevin Zanoni, just 6 points separating those two, and they've managed to build up a bit of an advantage over the rest of the field. So at the moment it's a bit of a two-horse race in the MotoE World Championship, but as we've seen in the last couple of rounds, everything can change drastically over a single race weekend. So don't be expecting it to stay that way for too long.
So the first lap's on the board then in this qualifying session. Kevin Zanoni will perform 1:40.289. Let me check how that was comparison to him earlier, because I believe that's a fair chunk quicker. Yeah, it is by a long way actually. He did a 40.7 earlier in practice, so immediately finding just about half a second, 4.5 tenths ish, somewhere in that region. Really good chunk of time found there from Kevin Zanoni. So definitely some changes there, whether it's to the suspension or the electronics on that Ducati V21L, but a real good job there from Kevin Zanoni to find a bit of the pace that he was lacking this morning.
Yeah, and it's the two riders that you would expect to be there in first and second and third in the championship, of course. Zanoni and Gutierrez 1 and 2. As it stands, Matteo Ferrari has a bit of work, and Matteo's actually pulling Gutierrez around as it stands. Ferrari looked as though he's a little bit wide going through Steckenwald just there, turn number 8 on this fabulous TT Circuit Assen. Gutierrez, then Zanoni, just tucked in to his slipstream. So 99 and the 21 have a pretty decent reference just up ahead on track. Ferrari, for what it's worth, felt that if he had a better qualifying at Mugello, he possibly could have been in the hunt for the podium fight back at Mugello 3 weeks ago, but he said he just was having to risk a bit too much to try and do something special in qualifying. He's just not quite feeling confident enough with this year's Ducati to do that just yet, so he's taken a very mature process of not trying to risk too much, not throwing it down the road and building himself up. But you can see just there, Gutierrez really gaining quite a lot of ground in the second half of that lap. Gutierrez briefly going first, And then demoted once again by Zaccone, now in the 39s.
Yeah, and that is quicker than the fastest time we had today, which was a new lap record as well, which actually Jordi Torres was the fastest rider in practice earlier, which is great to see Jordi back on form and firing. So a 39.8, 5.3, that is a good lap there from Kevin Zaccone.
It absolutely is, Jack, but I have to point you to the rider in third position. Lukas Tulovic, less than 3 weeks ago, was, struck down by a pretty terrifying crash which brought the red flags out in race 1 at Mugello, and we were all a little bit worried about Lucas's well-being after a big impact that he had with his bike after high-siding out at Buccini. He had all sorts of injuries, including a punctured lung, and he's just put it third in this session. Remarkable that he's not just on track, but he's in third in this session so far. So fair play to Lukas Tulovic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant from Tulovic. It was a real surprise to see that when the press release landed from the Intact GP team that he was going to give it a go, hopefully past the medical and see how it goes. And now, halfway around the lap, on his latest lap, he's only half a tenth off as well. So this would be a turn up for the books if Lukas Tulovic can find one of these Q2 spots, because what a heroic effort that would be after Neil Desay. A punctured lung, I think he even bit his tongue and grazed his chin and all sorts, and he's actually found time in the third sector as well. So fantastic effort this from Tulovic. Matteo Ferrari doesn't look like he's going to trouble the top two at all. He's 4 tenths off, so as he now drives to the line through the Gittimer chicane. But really we need to see what Lukas Tulovic is doing, the walking wounded hero from just a few weeks ago after that big smash in Mugello. Is he going to go up into the top two? Yes, he does. Absolutely epic effort that is from Lukas Tulovic. I'm sure he's going to be in a little bit of pain, but seeing himself up in P2, well, I'm sure that will relieve it just a bit as well.
Yeah, it's moments like these that you realise that motorcycle racers are a different breed, as they say back in Northern Ireland, where I come from. And Tulovic is showing exactly that. You can see left hand off the handlebar, just straightening his hand out there, but sensational effort from the German. He's looking across, I think, to one of the big screens on the inside of turn 5 there, Distruben. And well, it remains to be seen whether that will be enough to secure a spot in Q2, but with what he's done already, I think we can say hero of the day so far, Lukas Tulovic.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that has done is punted Oscar Gutierrez out of a possible Q2 spot at the minute, and this lap's not going to do anything. So he's only going to have one more shot at it next time around, just about. And Matteo Ferrari's been punted back to 5th as well, because Massimo Roccoli, the old Supersport veteran, doing epic work once again here. You have to be said, him last time out in Mugello was brilliant. A 4th place in the first race of the day, and then in the second race of the day he actually pipped Matteo Ferrari to the line by 0.02 of a second for 7th place. So two of his best results, well, the two best results he's had in the MotoE World Championship so far, and Roccoli once again not too far off here from picking up a Q2 spot either. So great stuff from the number 55.
Yeah, and he was an absolute demon on the first lap of the first race that we had at Mugello, climbing through from 12th on the grid, as you said, to 4th and into the podium fight. So Roccoli, yeah, definitely turning a few heads with that performance. Obviously riding for the Ongueta SIC 58 Squadra Corsa team in the MotoE World Championship this year. And yeah, his teammate Kevin Manfredi, unfortunately, just not quite having such a good time. Manfredi, who had a couple of decent performances last year, including at his home GP at Mugello, has been notably off the pace in the last couple of weeks. So Manfredi not really living up to expectations, I feel.
No, but of course with Manfredi this weekend, unfortunately, is riding a little bit wounded. He's had an extremely busy few weeks. Not only did he compete in the 8 Hours of Spa for his World Endurance team, then he flew over to Japan to go testing in Suzuka for the Suzuka 8 Hour. I think he's actually riding for Nobuo Ueda's team on a BMW over there. So a real mix of machines. And then he was racing the very next weekend in Italy in the CIV Superbike Championship on a Suzuki, and unfortunately crashed in warm-up on the Sunday morning. He's done some damage to his shoulder, so Manfredi riding a little bit injured, and that is kind of explaining why he's struggling here this weekend in Assen.
Yeah, if there's one place to not be riding fully fit that is not ideal, you would say it is this TT Circuit Assen, where there are a lot of very high-speed changes of direction. These bikes, of course, weighing around 220 kilograms. It is a fair old weight to be dragging from one side to another at these ridiculously high racing speeds. Gutierrez really needs to do something pretty special here in this final GT chicane as he flicks it right, then left, right again. The number 99 comes across the line. A place in Q2 depends on this, and he doesn't manage it. So Oscar Gutierrez will be starting tomorrow's race from 10th on the grid.
Yeah, so for the second round in a row then, Oscar Gutierrez misses out on a Q2 place. And we know that he's not exactly a qualifying specialist, but that is definitely out of the ordinary from what we've seen so far in 2024 for the number 99. I actually caught him very, very briefly leaving the circuit last night. And I was saying, oh, Joe, it was a bit of a difficult one. And he went, yeah, but it'll be fine here, hopefully. And unfortunately, it's got off on the wrong foot here. But we know that he loves a few overtakes in the races. So watch out for him surging through tomorrow. But it has to be said then, Kevin Zaccone, top job with that new all-time lap record of 1:39.853, and stunning stuff from the walking wounded Lukas Tulovic to pinch that final Q2 place. Absolutely epic.
Yeah, and I think we can pass on to Elliot, who has a bit of an update on the hero of that session, Lukas Tulovic. Elliot?
Yeah, I'm just watching him in pit lane now. He's sat down with his team and he's sort of shaking his head. He looks very tired and he's sort of nodding in appreciation that he's done a fantastic lap, and that's sort of all he's sort of got in the tank at this moment in time. He's come back in early as well. He came in, he didn't complete the last lap, getting some fluids and stuff on board as well. Looks tired, can't blame him of course, because he's obviously suffering massively on that Ducati MotoE bike, but a great effort from Lukas Tulovic, and hopefully we see him go back out in Q2. I think we will.
Yeah, thanks very much, Elliot. You just see Tulovic is coming onto our screens. Looks as though he's trying to get down an energy bar or something to give him a little bit of energy going forward into this next session. He's at least managed to get a spot in the top 10 on the grid, and I said Oscar Gutierrez would be 10th on the grid. Of course, I meant 11th on the grid tomorrow. I was watching motorbike racing when I should have been doing some maths homework, I think, when I was a little bit younger, Jack, but we all knew that.
Well, don't worry, my maths is pretty terrible as well, Neil, so let's not test each other on that, because we'll only embarrass ourselves, so that's probably a good one to avoid. But anyway, there you go, the maths is pretty clear in terms of Kevin Zaccone. 1:39.853 gives him that top spot in the qualifying one session, with Lukas Tulovic into the 39s as well. Stunning stuff there from the Intact GP rider. Oscar Gutierrez misses out. Massimo Roccoli, that's not too bad from him in terms of where his qualifying performances have been so far. He'll be happy enough with that, I'm sure. Matteo Ferrari definitely won't be too pleased with that. He's going to start way down in 13th on the grid. A lot of work to do for the struggling Ferrari, with his teammate just behind him. And Chaz Davies is going a little bit better this weekend. It has to be said, he's perhaps made a small step forward, which is good to see from Chaz. Of course, legendary World Superbike runner in the past decade and a half or so. And there you can see then Maria Herrera just behind Chaz as well. So it is going to be Kevin Zaccone then that leads Lukas Tulovic through to qualifying two. That will be coming up in just a handful of minutes as we dive into the 5th race day of the season for MotoE, who will take pole position and set themselves perfectly for a second half of the year title tilt. Okay, so welcome back to the lovely, sunny, slightly cloudy TT Circuit, Assen, Grand Prix Motorcycle Racing's most historic venue, and what a ribbon of tarmac this place is. Absolutely lovely, of course. And yes, you can see there, the temperature is fantastic as well, and well conducive to some fast lap times, as we have just seen in Q1. If you just missed it, we'll tell you exactly what happened. Kevin Zaccone and Lucas Tulovic, of course, the rider that had that big crash last time out in Mugello, has managed to pinch himself a Q2 place, exceeding expectations. Absolutely, it has to be said. So they will be joining all those riders you can see there. And probably the biggest story this weekend so far is Jordi Torres, the two-time MotoE World Cup winner, is back on song here in Assen, and that is fantastic to see after what has been a dismal start to the year. Well, dismal half of the season for the number 81, the experienced veteran in this electric class. So absolutely great to see from that. But what we have just seen is Oscar Gutierrez, third in the World Championship, missed out on a Q2 place. He's down with Elliot, chatting now.
Yeah, got Oscar just here after the session. Oscar, just talk us through that. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm not quite happy, you know. When you need to go always to Q1, it's a little. You need to have a little bit of luck. I was pushing behind Matteo, Kevin behind me, so you need to find the correct place to gain this little 10 for free, you know. But yeah, I feel good on the bike. I feel strong. So tomorrow we need to make a good comeback and stay focused.
Thanks, Oscar.
Thank you.
So thank you to Oscar and Elliot there for running us through exactly what happened. As you say, he needs to make a good comeback. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be hard work from there, down in 11th on the grid, beg my pardon. So a lot of work to do for the number 99.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the Red Bull Rookies bikes being prepared there. I think they have their qualifying session coming up just after this one. This is Hector Garzo, who, as you can see, is 5th in the World Championship as it stands. It's been a real up and down year so far for Hector, who, aside from a disastrous double non-score in France when he was starting both races on pole, has been pretty consistent inside the top 8 in the other 6 races that we've had so far. And Garzo was looking very strong indeed earlier today in the 2 practice sessions. Second he was in the combined standings, just behind Jordi Torres. So you have to imagine Hector Garzo will be a name in the mix for pole position in this session coming up. Great to see a lively, enthusiastic audience sticking around to watch MotoE qualifying. We've had a lot of faces and names through the door, through the turnstiles here today at the TT Circuit Assen. Bigger than normal crowds, I would say, for a Friday, which certainly hints at a big attendance tomorrow and on Sunday as well. As we just saw Alessandro Zaccone prepping himself. Zaccone, certainly one of the 4 men, you would have to say, in this MotoE category, and in some ways the star of Mugello.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, picked up that first pole position in the MotoE World Championship last time out, finally after several seasons in the electric class. A well-deserved one too, and a stunning lap time, has to be said, in what was slightly tricky conditions. And then obviously went on to finish on the podium in the second race of the day. Missed out in the first race of the day, finished in 6th, got a little bit beaten up in the early stages and just struggled then to get back on track with where he wanted to be, but made up for it in the second race. And unfortunately, he's actually leading that whole second race until the very last lap, when the pesky reigning world champion Mattia Casadei, at least if you're talking from Alessandro Zaccone's point of view, pinched through on him at turn 1 on the final lap, just to steal victory away. And the 3-year wait for Zaccone unfortunately rolls on.
Absolutely, but you feel the victory is just around the corner for Zach, who's had a long period in the wilderness, you would have to say, but certainly back on form this year. Finds himself 6th in the championship currently, 58 points off the championship summit, so not exactly out of the title fight just yet, but needs to be pretty picture perfect in the second half of this season if he wants to go to the final round of the year at Misano, with hopes of fighting for the championship still. We just saw Eric Granado on our screens. Granado, fairly modest performance earlier, 8th for the Brazilian in the combined practice standings. And what off the championship leader, Mattia Casadei, was 6th in the practice session just over lunch. So Casadei, who had that one blemish on his season with that crash in race 2 in Barcelona. He'll be keen to maintain the rhythm that he refined in Mugello, where of course he came away with a second and a first place.
Yeah, back on form, definitely is the reigning world champion, and looking seriously dangerous to, if he does it again here, to start running away with this championship. But we do know that the likes of Zaccone, even Spinelli, who had a bit of a poor round last time, will be looking to rebound here and get back to that winning form. Actually, it's interesting with Spinelli because, of course, in the first 4 races of the season, he managed to win 3 of them, and the only reason why he didn't win the 4th one was because he crashed. 75 points from those first 4 races of the season. In the next 4, he's only managed 13 more points, so it's a real tale of 2 halves so far.
Yeah, it's a good stat, that. Spinelli actually revealed after Mugello that he really injured one of his fingers in, I think it was his race 1 crash in Barcelona when he fell at the final turn, and that was an injury that he was carrying into Mugello. It just wasn't quite at his absolute fighting best. Spinelli came away with a 9th and a 10th place in the 2 races at Mugello, and yeah, said the injury was part of the reason for that. Also said he had a massive moment in the first race, big front end slide where he nearly crashed, and thought, you know what, I need to reel it in ever so slightly and make sure I can make the finish line. Didn't want to make a repeat of the double DNF that he had in Barcelona, obviously, so he got some points on the board, but that fortnight has had big implications for his championship. Now 44 points off the championship summit.
Yeah, a lot of work to do. Actually tied up with Hector Garzo as well, who technically sits behind him in the championship chase. So definitely a lot of work to do for Spinelli. And that save, it really was a massive moment. Honestly, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch the first race of the day in Mugello, because he took the front at turn 4. And I've never seen anyone recover one of these MotoE machines like that once the front tugs, because they're a little bit heavier than usual racing motorcycles, and they are hard to save once they do decide they don't want to be on 2 wheels anymore. So spectacular stuff from Spinelli.
Yeah, and he was honing in on the victory fight, wasn't he, at that particular moment in race 1, or well, it was race 2 actually, the first of the 2 races that we had on Sunday. Yeah. Race 1 was obviously postponed to later in the evening due to Lukas Tulovic's crash, but yeah, he was honing in on the leaders, had that big moment, and then really affected him for the rest of the day. So Spinelli, we know his speed, it's without question. It's just a bit rough around the edges, isn't it? It's been a bit of a messy season so far for the Italian, but certainly one thing that he and his team boss Hervé Poncharal will have taken from the first half of the year and the season is that he definitely has the speed to get back into the championship final.
It was interesting watching Eric Granado at the start of practice 2 earlier on, because of course he topped practice 1 this morning, and then when practice 2, the green flag eventually did wave, Eric just decided to sit there for 3 or 4 minutes, wait for everyone to go so he could go out essentially on his own at the back. Everyone was looking to get a toe off him, and perhaps it maybe just cost him a lap or 2 more that he needed to find the extra couple of attempts to be right up at the sharp end. So definitely Eric maybe got a little bit more in the bag than it looked like in P2.
Yeah, and as you can see, nearly 4 minutes of this session has passed, and not one of these 10 riders has put a lap time in, so they're banking on a bit of a late charge. No need to go out right at the start of the session. They were kind of keeping their powder dry, and you feel that maybe 1 or 2 of the top guys decided to do this, and the rest have pretty much followed. But it's been a very slow start to this session. You can see a few riders slowing down, trying to find a bit of space on track, or trying to find the ideal toe up ahead. Big expectations on the shoulders of this rider here, Jordi Torres, who topped the combined practice standings earlier today. Torres refound a bit of the form which has carried him to 2 MotoE championships in years gone by, and it's great to see Jordi back towards the front, because yeah, we've missed him. He's obviously a great character to have in this series, and a tremendous fighter as well. And what's this going on? Casadei's had a big run off through Ramshoek, I think, and this has all got very messy, I have to say, so far.
Yeah, I hope that's not he's had to run on because he's tripped up over a rider going slow. Of course, we know the stewards like to dish out some warnings and penalties for excessively slow sectors, so hopefully none of that shenanigans has happened. But for Mattia Casadei, those tyres are going to be a bit chalky from the gravel now. Hopefully he's managed to wear off most of that through the Gert Timmer chicane there, but coming down into turn 1, he's going to be a little bit tentative although he does get it and a little bit of a wiggle going down into turn one. We're going to see exactly what happens here. So we're on board with Mattia Casadei then as he comes through Hogerheide, and he'll be diving into Ramschuk. Oh, and he just has a big rear end slide. Wow, that is not where you want to have a big rear end slide. Of course, we've seen big crashes there over the years. I always think of Jorge Lorenzo's crash there, tumbling through the gravel trap on the Repsol Honda. So thankfully for Mattia, he does manage to regather that one and stay on board. But now we see his teammate coming through the same section, the only rider so far this season to take more than one pole position, searching for a third one to make it the hat-trick, and he will be the first rider to put in a representative time on the board here in Q2 with just over 4 minutes to go on the clock. What does Eric Granado do? It's a 140.152. That's about 3/10 slower than what Kevin Zannoni managed earlier on in Q1. So time to find for the number 51.
Yeah, decent stuff though from Granado. I think that is his fastest time of the day so far. Yes, it is by 0.2 of a second. So Granado certainly in the zone as it stands. You can see he was very loose getting down, breaking into turn number one. What can Jordi Torres do? It doesn't look as though he's going to be on the same level as the Brazilian on this particular lap. But Torres has managed to find some clear track to lap in. He comes across the line, jumps into second. I feel though that he's going to be going a lot faster than that the more this session develops. Torres, of course, fastest in practice with 39.9, so he has about half a second still to find.
So 3.5 minutes to go on the clock as they all came flying across the line. They should only have really maybe 2 more laps at this, and with plenty of mistakes on that first lap. You can see there that Kevin Zannoni was 5.4 off, so definitely a couple of mistakes there from the number 21. They need to put it together quickly if they are going to challenge for this pole position here in Assen. Lukas Tulovic is 6/10 off coming through the third split. That would put him on the provisional front row at this stage, but I'm sure that will change late into this session as we do now pick up the number 3, walking wounded. A heroic performance earlier in Q1 and a 140.780. Wow. We know he's got more time, but so far that will do if everyone else can't capitalise on putting their laps together. But putting one together, it is Jordi Torres.
It is indeed provisional front row for Lukas Tulovic. We did not think we would be saying that 3 weeks ago in Mugello when he was being attended to in the gravel traps. Tremendous recovery, tremendous effort so far from the number 3, but look at this coming in. We have potential fastest times for Torres, Zannoni, Garzo and Alessandro Zaccone. Zaccone half a second up through split number 2. The number 61 is the rider to keep an eye on at the moment.
Yeah, big lap times coming in then. If they can manage to take 4.5 tenths off, it will be another all-time lap record. Let's get Jordi Torres across the line first then. The first of the Aspar team riders, number 81, rejuvenated this weekend, does go to provisional pole for now with a 140 point. Whoa! Who's gone down in the background? That might have been Andrea Mantovani by the looks of the colouring as Kevin Zannoni goes to the top, but Alessandro Zaccone with a 139.444. He's over 3/10 quicker than everyone else. Incredible lap time from Zaccone.
Absolutely insane stuff from the big Italian. And another big Italian has had a bit of a moment down into the GT chicane, as you called it. Andrea Mantovani crashing out, and of course the yellow flags will now be out in sector number 4, which could ruin the final lap times of some of this field. There it is, a pretty standard GT chicane crash, you would have to say, for the number 9. A shame for Mantovani, who was on the provisional front row just a handful of minutes ago. But his session ends in acrimony down at the GT chicane.
So Zaccone then on track for back-to-back pole positions. What do they say about London buses? You wait for one and then 2 come along at once. With his first one ever last time out, he may well just be getting a second one here. As Neil rightly said about those yellow flags, it might not be cleared in time. But speaking of that, they've just gone in. So what's Torres doing on this lap? Is he doing anything? Look down at the timing screens, a 1/4 of a second off. That could put him into second place, but now 4/10 off through the third split. Still potentially on for a front row though.
Yeah, he certainly is. We have some big margins through the front row currently. Garzo 3/10 off pole, Zannoni in third, 5/10 off pole. So Torres could slot onto the front row here with this time. He looks pretty clean through the GT chicane, turns it right, barrels across the line. Torres doesn't manage to improve in position, although he does shave a 10th off his time.
Spinelli goes up to the middle of the second row. That's certainly not too bad for the number 29, although he will be hoping to be a little bit higher if he can complete this last lap exactly how he wants it to. And Mattia Casadei down in 8th as it stands. And did he take the checkered flag? No, he did not. He did manage to sneak across for one final attempt. So the reigning world champion and championship leader under pressure here as the checkered flag is out.
Yeah, pretty subdued stuff from Casadei so far. 1.3 seconds off pole position as well. So Casadei, you wonder if that big scare into the Ramshoek has affected him and just knocked his confidence ever so slightly towards the end of the session. Lukas Tulovic continuing to work miracles here. He could be going onto the second row with this effort as he comes across, takes the checkered flag. Tulovic loses a little bit of time, but 7th place is still a heroic effort for the big German, and brilliant stuff from him. Really doff my hat to Lukas for his efforts this afternoon.
Absolutely, instantly takes that left hand off the handlebar just to take the pressure off that broken, or freshly broken and operated on left wrist. So absolutely brilliant stuff from Lukas Tulovic, and that is his second best qualifying position of the year. So really good stuff, particularly after recovering from all of those injuries. Everyone sliding it through the fast right-handers here as we complete the lap in Assen. Maybe Hector Garzo's just getting held up here. What's he on in terms of lap time? He is pretty close as well, only a 10.5 off as he rounds into the final part of the lap, the Gittimer chicane. It's chaos in front of him as Zannoni's just in front of Spinelli, with Mikel Pons just behind as well. Will anyone improve? Pons is 8th for now. Does he go higher? No, unfortunately he does get held up, and I think everyone there just tripping over themselves. But it will be Alessandro Zaccone for the second time in succession that takes pole position here in the MotoE World Championship. Absolutely brilliant job from the number 61. We said he needed to have a perfect second half of the year if he wants any title for himself. Well, that was a perfect performance in qualifying.
It was indeed, in two respects, because he got pole and the championship leader could only manage 9th. Mattia Casadei well off the pace. Normally from what we see him, that is comfortably Casadei's worst qualifying performance of the year so far. He had never been lower than 5th before now this season. But Alessandro Zaccone, well, we called it earlier, said that he was in some ways the star of Mugello and the Italian Grand Prix with his performances there. Didn't quite manage to get the victory that his races deserved in some ways, but it looks as though he's going to be going for it once again here tomorrow. He's put it on pole position and he's absolutely annihilated the lap record in the MotoE class by half a second from what it was previously.
Yeah.
At the end of practice 2 this afternoon, and getting a bit of warm congratulations from Hector Garzo, who was in the slipstream on the final lap there. Garzo also will be pretty pleased with second place. So good stuff all round from that pair.
Yeah, Garzo, that makes it now 3 front row qualifying slots for him from the first 5 rounds of the season. So real great consistency in terms of Friday afternoon qualifying. Just needs to find a little bit more consistency in picking up those podium places on Saturday. But as you say, second place on the grid, I'm sure that will do lovely for trying to pick up 2 of those precious podiums that he needs for this title charge. So brilliant stuff then from Hector Garzo. And of course as well, a round of applause to Kevin Zannoni as he just appears on our screen now, picking up a front row of the grid after coming through Q1. So a real great turnaround from what was a lacklustre performance in practice earlier today.
Yeah, pretty good salvage job, wasn't it, from Kevin Zannoni, coming through Q1 as Jack just said. A decent day at the office for the 2 Open Bank Aspar team riders, Zannoni and Jordi Torres. They do run different colours, but they are part of the same Aspar team. 3rd for Zannoni, 4th for Torres. And while not quite the same performance that we saw from Torres earlier in the day when he topped the combined practice sessions, is a welcome return to the second row and his best qualifying performance of the year so far. So decent work there for Torres.
Yeah, certainly much better than last time out in Mugello when that 4 unfortunately had a 1 in front of it. It was 14th last time on the grid in Mugello. So yeah, a much happier Friday afternoon for Jordi Torres, and I'm sure he'll have the bit between his teeth at a circuit where he was on the podium twice here last year, don't forget. And also Alessandro Zaccone has been on the podium here before as well, back in 2021 with the old Energica Ego Corsa. So some good history here for Zaccone too. So great stuff then from all of our front row. And I have to say, with obviously 6 points in it coming into the weekend between Cassidy and Zaccone, now with 6 positions between the two of them on the grid, it makes for some tasty viewing tomorrow when we go lights out for race 1 at 12:15 local time here in Assen, and then also for race 2 at 4:10 in the afternoon as well.
All smiles from Hector Garzo, who enjoyed a really solid day at the office here today. Garzo can't be counted out of the championship fight either. 44 points back of Cassidy currently. Good stuff from him. Of course, he's still looking for his first victory of the season so far. And it has all been about variety in MotoE so far this year. We've had 4 different winners from 8 races so far, and 7 different podium finishers. You would have to say that that number is probably going to grow in the upcoming races as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can get Jordi Torres onto the podium at some point this year, and with his best grid slot so far, definitely tomorrow is going to be his best chance of making that happen in 2024. So let's see what the number 81 can do. But it's going to be tough. You've got to say, Kevin Zaccone, from turning it around earlier when he didn't look very convincing at all, it's definitely a little bit of a menacing prospect for tomorrow. We know as well just how fast he is off the line and down to turn 1. We've seen in the last 2 rounds he's gone from, I think he started 8th in Barcelona and managed to go into 2nd into turn 1 both times, and then in Mugello, when he was 5th on the grid for the first race of the day, he hole-shotted it. So yeah, really fast off the line.
Yeah, his best qualifying by 3 places this year. His first front row of 2024 as well. And it looks as though we're going to be speaking to him in just a minute, because he's down in Parc Fermé with Elliot. Take it away, Kevin Zaccone.
Kevin, great job on the front row for the MotoE Assen. How are you feeling?
Yes, I'm very happy because the day don't start in the best way because I had some difficult. But after, before the qualifying, we work very well with the team. We do some adjustment on the bike and on myself that helped me a lot, and it's important. Finally, first row for the season, so we need to do the best tomorrow. But we start in front, and it was very important.
Well, Kevin, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot, and thanks as well to Kevin Zaccone. Some nice style as he breaks down into De Struben, turn 5 here. A few Dutch journalists have really tried to make sure the pronunciation is perfect.
Yeah, well, let's not test my pronunciation of it, because I'm sure I'll butcher 1 or 2 of them, but we can see tomorrow in the races.
18 of them.
Oh, steady. That's a little bit harsh, Neil, on the nose, that one. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, it looks as though we can chat to Hector Garzo. Middle of the front row for Hector tomorrow. Great stuff from him. He's down with Elliot.
Yeah, top job, Hector. Front row start for tomorrow. P2, 3 in the first 5 races. You must be pleased.
Yeah, thank you very much. So happy for me, for the team. The feeling was quite good since the beginning of the day. I had a bad stone in my heart because last year here was a disaster, but I think we are working in the right way. So let's see how it's going tomorrow. I hope the weather respects us. So let's see how it's going.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, Hector, that's a big old ask, asking the Dutch weather to respect you, but fingers crossed that it does. We are led to believe that it should be dry here tomorrow.
Neil,
although you can never be too sure, can you?
You're tempting fate already today, and now you're tempting fate again. You did it earlier this morning, Jack Appleyard in Motor3 commentary. I heard that one. So, yeah, let's not have any more talk about the weather. Let's talk about the pole sitter with Alessandro Zaccone. His second one on the bounce, and his second one ever. He's down there with Elliot.
Yeah, Alessandro, 2 pole positions on the bounce. A great day at the office. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm super happy because we improve all the weekend from the beginning of the season, and now we are showing our potential. I start to feel, I feel really good on the bike. We did another good qualifying year. New lap record in Mugello. For sure will be 2 difficult races because we are all very close, especially here. It's difficult to leave the group, but we will try to enjoy tomorrow like in Mugello.
Great job, Alessandro.
Thank you very much. Ciao.
Great job indeed from Alessandro Zaccone. And if he says try to enjoy like we did in Mugello, I think that means he'll be trying to get the whole shot and build up a bit of a margin over some of the riders just behind him. That's what Zaccone's tactics were in the second race of the day that we had in Mugello, and as you previously mentioned, Jack, was just on the final lap when he was overtaken. But he'll be going for similar tactics again tomorrow after he secured his second pole position on the points.
So then this will be how they line up for the 2 MotoE races tomorrow, Saturday here at the TT Circuit. Assen. Alessandro Zaccone will be on pole position with that 39.4, 8 tenths quicker than the lap record coming into the weekend. Fantastic lap back. Garzo and Zidoni complete the front row, and great to see Torres rekindling some of the form that we know he has. They're heading up the second row of the grid. Watch out for him. Unfortunately, Andrea Mantovani will start 10th after that crash. That's 2 qualifyings in a row where Mantovani has suffered a crash. And Oscar Gutierrez has work to do from 11th, and as does Matteo Ferrari. Still not entirely clicking for the 2019 World Cup winner, but hopefully the rider that won both races here last year, don't forget, Ferrari will be able to find some of that magic and show the form and speed that we do know he has. So then, we'll see you tomorrow. Join myself, Neil Morrison and Elliot York down in pit lane and on the grid. We'll be chatting you through race 1 at 12:15 local time here in Assen, and then later in the afternoon at 4:10 as Alessandro Zaccone heads off to try and pick up his first victory in 3 whole years in the MotoE World Championship. We'll see you then. Ciao for now.